Welcome. Today we begin together a journey into the history of writing for the blind, a history that often surprises us because it shows just how long and difficult the path has been that led blind people to gain access to reading. There is a special term to indicate this type of printing. It is called anaglyptic. With this word, we mean texts, images, and raised figures designed so that they can be recognized with the fingers. This is a mode that, over the centuries, has been experimented with in many different ways, from paper to cardboard to more resistant materials such as metal or, more recently, plastic. The goal has always been the same: to transform reading from a purely visual experience into a tactile one. Often, when this history is told, one makes a leap far back in time to ancient Egypt. It is natural to imagine the hieroglyphs carved into stone as a kind of writing that could also be felt with the hands. It is an evocative image, but the reality is different. Historians tell us that there is no evidence that the blind ever used hieroglyphs in this way. Most Egyptian texts were written on papyrus with ink, therefore flat and impossible to recognize with the fingers. And the carved hieroglyphs, although raised, were full of details and conceived for the eye, not for touch. It would have been almost impossible to read them clearly with the hands. The truth is that in antiquity, the blind had no reading tools. Blindness was considered a condemnation, often interpreted as a divine punishment. In Egypt, there are texts that tell of men struck blind by the gods as a punishment for their sins. Even in Greek and Roman culture, the loss of sight was seen as a sign of misfortune. In antiquity, blindness was not only a physical condition, but often took on a symbolic meaning. Some figures, real or legendary, gave voice to this vision. The poet Homer, traditionally believed to have been blind, became for centuries the symbol of an inspiration that did not need eyes to see, capable of evoking through epic poetry the deeds of heroes. Alongside him, in Greek legends, we find Tiresias, the seer, deprived of sight but endowed with the gift of prophecy, a figure embodying the idea of an inner knowledge deeper than sensory perception. The story of Oedipus also highlights this link between blindness and awareness. By blinding himself after discovering his own guilt, he becomes the emblem of a truth gained through suffering. These cases, however, remained exceptions. Most blind people in antiquity lived on the margins, depending on alms or finding some limited role, for example in music. It is no coincidence that some Egyptian reliefs show us blind harpists, welcomed in courts and temples, but certainly not as readers or as scribes. We must wait until the 16th century to witness a real turning point. It is the century in which printing spread, literacy grew, and humanism awakened a new interest in education and inclusion. In this context, the first documented attempts to devise reading systems for the blind took shape. The first known experiment dates back to 1517, when Francesco Lucas of Saragossa devised a system based on characters engraved on thin wooden tablets, designed to be perceived with the fingers. The idea was simple but revolutionary: to transform writing into relief so that it could be read not only with the eyes but also with touch. Shortly afterwards, Francesco Rampazzetto, a Roman printer, is remembered for having devised a tactile writing system intended for the blind. In 1575, he is said to have designed a mechanism based on small wooden cubes with raised characters, conceived to be perceived with the fingers. The interest in these possibilities, although sporadic, did not fade. Around 1640, the Parisian printer Pierre Moreau attempted to use movable lead type to produce texts intended for the blind. It was a system close to traditional typography, aiming to offer pages readable by touch. However, the high costs and technical complexity prevented its diffusion, and the project remained an isolated experiment. The 18th century marked a decisive step. In England, Nicholas Saunderson, 1682 to 1739, blind since childhood, became professor of mathematics at Cambridge. To teach and calculate, he created his own method based on a board with small pegs and grooves, which allowed him to replace visual writing with a tactile representation of numbers and operations. His career demonstrated that blindness was not an insurmountable obstacle to scientific knowledge, and that, with ingenuity and determination, it was possible to achieve a prominent role in the world of knowledge. In France, the philosopher Denis Diderot, 1713–1784, addressed the issue in a radical way. In his famous Lettres sur les aveugles, 1749, he argued that the blind were not deprived of the world, but perceived it through different senses, capable of offering an authentic understanding of reality. The text provoked scandal and was censored, but it marked a cultural turning point. For the first time, blindness was considered not only as a deprivation, but as a human condition carrying an alternative form of knowledge. From the 16th to the 18th century, therefore, Europe saw the emergence of ideas, experiments, and reflections which, although not yet constituting an organized movement, prepared the ground for what would happen in the 19th century. The idea that the blind could read, study, make music, and contribute to common knowledge was beginning to take shape, opening the way to a future in which the education of the blind would become a right and a concrete reality.